Massive Deadlock balance change just dropped. A lot of changes to basically every character in the game. Every item or most items got reworked. There is a new green 800 item that we'll go over in a second, but we'll start with the biggest change first, which is the urn. We have a completely new urn mechanic. The way urn works now, you can't pick it up by just hovering over it anymore. You just light or heavy melee it. And you're carrying the urn. Now you might notice I'm still able to use all my abilities while carrying the urn. All my abilities that are not movement abilities. I can still use my stamina, I can still punch, I can do anything I want, but that's not the biggest change. The biggest change is Pepe Jammer. Biggest change is that the urn drop-off is now on the middle of the map. And the way it works is completely new. So the first thing you will notice, after 35 seconds, I take 5% max health damage now. Okay, so I will die very quickly, and I can actually die to the urn. So I guess we'll do that now, because I'm already out of time. The urn is now always deposited in the middle of the map above the blue lane. And the way it works is you pick it up with melees, you can run it, but on the drop-off spot, you have to deposit it in a deposit spot. Once the urn is deposited in that spot, the enemy team will have a certain amount of seconds to heavy melee the urn and change the drop-off, okay? So the urn is gonna stay in place. It's basically a king of the hill, right? It's basically like a mini mid-boss mid-game. And yeah, once the urn is deposited, there's gonna be a countdown that you see on the top and some nice jazzy music. And the team that gets a drop-off will get the urn value, okay? And the numbers on this got changed quite drastically. You might ask, what happens if you're behind, if you're like doing a comeback urn? If you deposit it in mid, it is going to be faster to deposit, okay? So the values are, for a neutral urn, it is 5 seconds per team. If you are in a comeback urn, it's 3 seconds, so it's going to deposit way faster. And if you do a favorite urn, it's going to be at 10 seconds, okay? So the enemy team will have 10 seconds to melee it with a heavy melee and change the tide. Now, obviously, you can camp someone on the urn and get parries off, right? To change, like, you know, to stop them from getting the switch, right? But at the end of the timer, basically, you will get the money, okay? That's how it works. The big deal is, which sounds really OP, is if you are a comeback favorite, right? So if you're the team that's behind and you're depositing, you get a 50% bullet and spirit resist in a 60-meter radius around the urn while it's being carried, dropped, or deposited, okay? Which means if you are the team ahead, you do not want the team that's behind to pick up the urn. Because as long as the enemy team is around that urn, it's 50% resists on everything, right? Which means even if they're quite far behind, they will be way more tanky. It's going to be way harder for your team to engage at any point, right? At the carry, the drop, or the deposit. So pretty big deal. I just realized it's also while dropped, right? So if the team that's behind is, you know, around the urn that's dropped at a certain point, they will be very resistant. It's going to be harder to fight them. Another pretty big deal is, where is it? Oh yeah, another pretty big deal is that you cannot juggle the urn anymore. There used to be a strategy where the team that was ahead would pick up the urn and then drop it, pick it up again, drop it, pick it up again. You can now only drop it off or pick it up one more time after you drop it once, and after it's going to immediately run back to the spawn. Also, because the urn damage is lethal and it's way higher now, you cannot run the urn to your spawn and just leave it there, right? It will, you will die even in your base while healing with your base healing. And if you drop it twice, right, it's going to run back to the spawn. So that's a really, really good change. I really like the new urn. It sounds really fun. I haven't played around it yet, but it looks really fun. Otherwise, another very massive change is that Midboss now spawns directly when you get into the game at 0 minutes. And here you can see a team running Midboss at level 1, rushing it, ignoring the lane mechanics completely. And again, Midboss scales with time, right? So the HP goes up over time, which means you can technically, and as you can see, you can kill it at level 1. Which the enemy team did not expect that. So here we have the 1 minute mid-boss fight. which actually turns out to be good for the team that picks up the urn, it looks like. And it's pretty fucking massive. Okay, that's pretty fucking massive. Let's get, okay, so that's the biggest hype changes. Let's get into the real new item real quick. It's called Grit. Grit is a new 800 item for the green category that gives you 200 barrier for 4 seconds, and it has a 60-second cooldown. You might compare this to extra health and think, well, it's 200 and extra health is 210. You can use this to bait out enemy abilities, right, and use it whenever, and you get these 200 health extra every 60 seconds, right? You can also think of it as 200 healing, right? Plus, as you can see, Grit, the new item, also builds into every single barrier item later down the line. And spoilers, spirit shielding and weapon shielding got massive buffs, okay? So this item I think is going to be very strong. Might turn out to be too strong if you build it into shieldings early, but we'll have to play around with it. It's very cool. It's a cool idea. I like it. I think it adds like another layer of complexity to the game. If you're in lane, you check if the enemy has Grit. You can play around it because it has a 60-second cooldown. You just got to be aware of it, right? So I think it's very cool. Okay. Otherwise, for general gameplay updates, people were complaining that everyone was a bit too tanky. So they reduced the base HP of every hero by 10. And the HP per boon for every single hero got reduced by 3. Okay, so overall health nerf, which again benefits tanky characters more than it benefits squishy characters. Another big pain point of the last patch was the so-called wall breaking, which was Victor or other characters running into your base and killing your shrines. That got nerfed in multiple ways. So in general, shrines can now only be targeted after a pair of base guardians is destroyed. So you have to kill the base guardians first always. Plus, they nerfed or they buffed the resistance of every single objective in the game to bullet damage. Okay, so base guardians have more bullet resist, shrines have more bullet resist, and also walkers have more bullet resist. So that should actually fix the wall breaking, especially because Victor, spoilers, got hard nerfed also. Small changes, guardians are less resistant, okay? So they can die faster, which means snowballing and laning got more important, which means early game scalar spirit characters got stronger again. Medium neutral initiated spawn time reduced to 5 minutes, so you can start jungling earlier if you were gonna win the lane early. This is kind of a big deal. And breakables now spawn later. And I love this change, by the way, because it means you have to be more proactive in lane, and you can't just like at 2 minutes, you know, everyone would run boxes and most lanes turned into like AFK box farming. This means you want to be active in your, you know, laning stage was a really fun stage in the game, and this should mean that you will, you know, fight more in lane, and that's really good. Some small changes or pretty big changes to medium, the medic troopers. The healing is now always over time. It doesn't instantly heal you, and if you kill multiple healing troopers at the same time, it just will extend the duration of the healing, okay? So it will not instantly heal you to full, which means it's another nerf to like, if a big wave is coming in, you can just kill the wave and like get full healing back. That's a nerf, and it makes for more proactive gameplay. So good changes. Total damage reduction debuffs now stack diminishingly rather than additively. Doesn't really matter much, I think. There were some combos, especially on like stuff like Mirage, where it was really good. Okay, so otherwise investments got changed a tiny bit. There is now a second spike in the game. So what this looks like is, if you look in the game, there is a new spike at the 6.4k line. So overall it matters a bit more if you get 6.4 in a category compared to before. Should change builds up a tiny bit. But let's get into the big winners for items. And again, there's a lot of changes. I will link the full patch notes in the description. But the big winners of this patch, in my opinion, first up, Tesla bullets. Tesla bullets got a 20% damage increase. Same for capacitor, okay? So both capacitor and Tesla bullets proc more often by 20%, which is just 20% extra damage. Is going to help on characters that have fast fire rate, that want to run Tesla. Definitely back on the menu. So this item is very good. Otherwise, yeah, small changes overall. I think Spiritual Overflow got even better because it builds out of Spirit Lifesteal now, so you can get to this item easier. So buff to that. In the green category, there is one major winner in my opinion, and that is Spirit Shielding. They made it so Spirit Shielding, when it procs, now also grants 18% spirit resistance, okay? So before it just used to give you movement speed and the extra health of the item, but now, does it block the picture? It's whatever. It's whatever, chat. Now it doesn't give you the movement speed anymore, but instead it gives you 18% spirit resist, okay? So compare that to something like Enchanter's Emblem, that's the same amount, okay? While it's active, and it's active for 8 seconds, okay? So this is a massive, massive anti-spirit item, and the same applies to weapon shielding if you're struggling with gun damage. But because gun damage is overall a bit weaker, I think spirit shielding is going to be absolutely crazy. This is going to be the item you buy in lane if the enemy has a lot of spirit damage, because when it procs, you will take a lot less damage and you will have a lot more HP. These items both got buffed. Remember, they can also build out of grid, right? So you will see a lot of characters run grid into either spirit shielding or weapon shielding is my prediction. Yeah, gun damage is weaker because every single item or a lot of items that counter gun damage, something like return fire, or something like Rusted Barrel got buffed, okay? So they keep on increasing like these values for anti-gun items, which overall, again, makes gun damage a bit weaker again. Another thing I really want to point out, 2 big winners of the patch, Infuser and Vampiric Burst now last longer, okay? Vamp Burst lasts for another half a second, Infuser lasts for another full second. So both of these items got pretty major buffs. They will be probably see more play, especially Infuser. Leech got a tiny HP increase, but I think on most characters you will pick, if you want lifesteal on most characters, you will pick between Vamp Burst and Infuser. I think very few characters will actually run Leech nowadays. I think even on characters like Wraith that do like, 60% spirit damage and 40% gun damage, you will probably end up maybe running something like Infuser because it's just going to be more value. Big winner in the spirit category is Arctic Blast. Arctic Blast got some major readjustments / buffs, so it doesn't amplify the damage anymore while you're frozen, but the freeze duration, the immobilized duration got increased, the radius and the height got increased, and it now freezes the enemy's stamina regen for the full 4-second duration, okay? So if you get hit by Arctic Blast, your stamina will not regen for 4 seconds. That is a massive buff to this item, probably pretty crazy now. Yeah, otherwise, again, you can go over all of this. Pretty small changes, pretty small adjustments overall to most of these items. Nothing that really stands out in my opinion. Some of the items that were more niche you will see pop up more in builds in the coming days, weeks. Let's get into the juice. This is actually what he came for. I should have done this at the start of the video, to be honest. We'll go over heroes real quick. Quite a few changes, but a lot of them are minor. I'll give you the 4 big winners arguably and the 1 big loser. And we'll start with the big loser. Apollo got absolutely gutted, okay? They made it easier to hit him. They reduced his base regen from 2 to 1. If you don't know what that means in lane, laning stage is the most important stage in the game because it leads to everything else in the game, halving the regen. Riposte, now you have to, when you use Riposte now, you have to target an enemy player during the cast time to stun. You might think that's not a big deal, but it's one more moment you can fuck up. But the biggest deal is that means you cannot use Riposte to get out anymore, right? You can't run away from the enemy, use Riposte to run away because you have to target an enemy. Otherwise, you will not move at all. So this is a massive, massive nerf to Apollo. Plus, Flawless Advanced Hitbox also got nerfed. I want to say this character is probably quite weak now, which leads me to what should I play now if I like Apollo? The answer is you are gonna play Yamato, because Yamato, even though she was already crazy, got a bunch of buffs for no reason. So you can now cast again after casting Power Slash 200 milliseconds earlier. The spirit scaling got increased on Power Slash. This item is gonna, or this ability is gonna hit like a truck. To add insult to injury, they also made Flying Slash actually better on base and on higher upgrades. On tier 2, it's a bit worse because it has less range. But on tier 3, it's about the same. And you have an extra charge extra. And then they also buffed Shadow transformation. So I don't know what they're smoking here. But yeah, massive Yamato buffs. Definitely one of the biggest winners of the patch. Warden got slight nerfs. Another big loser of the patch, as I mentioned earlier, Victor. Victor's entire, Wallbreaker playstyle got nerfed, and in addition to that, he now does less bullet damage. Aura of Suffering only does half the damage to objectives, and Jumpstart got a slight buff, but I think this is going to put Victor right back down into D tier or pretty bad tier. I think he's going to be very weak. Silver has slight nerfs, Shiv slight nerfs, 7 slight nerfs for whatever reason, I don't know why. Rem's tag-along is better in every regard. You can take your time to read through all of these, but basically it heals more, it's faster, you have more mobility after jumping out, you can jump between allies faster, it has better scaling on the ability. I think they went kind of overboard with this. We'll have to see, but Rem seems like Rem might be the strongest support in the game now, I want to say. Because all the other supports, or most of the other supports, actually got a bit of a nerf. Like Calvin got a bit of a nerf. Paige got slight buffs, but Rem seems kind of crazy. But the biggest winner, in my opinion, in this patch is Great Talon. And they only really changed one ability, but they made this ability way, way stronger, and that is Rain of Arrows. The cooldown is lower, it doesn't last as long, but you can now dash further while you're in Rain of Arrows. Overall, it's just better. I'll just show you real quick what this looks like in-game. If you have Rain of Arrows and you have any like stamina items, Stamina Mastery is very common on him, right? You can press the Rain of Arrows button and then you dash and you're across the entire map. And this is like really, this is like in-game. Like, I think you need to appreciate how far you can really go, right? Like imagine, I showed this off earlier, imagine you have to like run in here, you dash twice and you're across the entire map. Same for if you want to get out, right? You're harassing, you want to get out, you use, and by the way, this is the in-game cooldown, use Rain of Arrows, you dash away, right? And my movement is shit, right? If you do this properly, you can get away insanely far, very fast. It's very crazy. That reminds me, I guess another thing I should point out, another item I forgot that actually got quite significant buffs that also helps him is Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter upgrades from high velocity in addition to long range, gives you the velocity now, and does 10% weapon damage on base, okay? So it's just more consistent, and that means it's a buff to Great Talon and Vindicta, but Great Talon first and foremost because he just got such a giga buff. Celeste got a nerf to her hitbox, but then they buffed her damage on her ult and her 3 for whatever reason. The character was already crazy, so that's questionable. Dorman got changed, so the way the Dorman door works now is if anyone else uses it, okay, so doorway close sub ability now starts on cooldown for 8 seconds. So if you push someone through a door with Dorman, they can run back out. The door, you won't be able to close the door right away. Which also means if someone runs after you when you take a door, you won't be able to close it, okay? Plus, in addition, you can now silence the doorway. So Dorman can no longer cast it when he's silenced. I mean, okay, so Paradox got a change to her time wall. You can spam it more often on tier 3. The charge delay between charges got reduced, plus her Carabine does more damage, plus her swap does more damage, another buff. But the biggest winner that we haven't talked about at all in this patch is Pocket, in my opinion. Pocket was absolutely crazy before this patch, was the most banned character in Night Shift last week, and you might look at this and think, wait, Pocket got nerfed, but with all the other changes going on and gun damage becoming weaker, Pocket probably is by far the strongest character in the game. They also changed Majestic Leap, and Pocket is a really good Majestic Leap user. You now have 50% more air control while you're in, while you have the overshield of, where the fuck is it? While you have the overshield of Majestic Leap. So you have a lot of directional control on Majestic Leap, which this item was already crazy for movement, right? So again, if you put someone with good movement on this ability, right, that does like proper air strafes, you're gonna see some crazy shit with this ability. And again, I'm pretty bad at Pocket, and it looks like, you know, I'm actually moving because the item just got buffed. Last but not least, Lash got changed. Bullet damage got nerfed as predicted by Yoshi. Plus, you cannot stack extra bullet damage anymore when you cast Grapple multiple times. But in as a compensating buff, he got his Ground Strike buffed a bit, okay? So I think Lash is still going to be very, very good. Probably a tiny bit weaker than before, but I think he's going to be still a very solid character. Holiday, slight adjustments, buffs. Haze got buffed, even though she's already really good. More damage on Fixation, and this is actually quite a big buff to Fixation, by the way. And last but not least, for my Magic Carpet enjoyers, they gave this item an 8, 25% air control, and 15% gravity scale, okay? And this does scale with characters that already have an 8 gravity, like Celeste. So this is what it looks like when you jump around on Celeste now. This is the full speed of the game. Now, again, you can use this. If you have good air control, I'm sure this is gonna be kind of pretty insane. You will be able to do some really... What the fuck? We're just floating, man. It's literally moon gravity. And again, I suck at movement, but I think it's still gonna be a meme item for the record. But I guess you can now be any character and be Celeste, so... Magic carpet on Haze? Thoughts? This is so silly. What the fuck? Last but not least, Viscous got an adjustment, let's call it, to Puddle Punch. It now gives 40% lifesteal on level 2. So, yeah. I don't know about that one, Yoshi. That's gonna be a lot of healing. That's the patch. TLDR. Gun probably even weaker overall. Spirit even stronger. It's the new urn looks super hype. We'll have to see how it plays out. I hope it's gonna be good. I hope it's not gonna be all spirit nuke. We'll have to see. Buy spirit shielding, guys. You will need it in the next few weeks. It's gonna be a crazy item. And yeah. Did Yoshi cook? I give it a 6 out of 7.